My friends, today's video is going to be about music theory for guitar players. Now, before you click off this video is not about learning overly complicated things. It's not about buying and studying hundreds of books for years and years to become a master of music theory. My goal with this video is giving you an exact and clear roadmap of which topics really matter and in which order you should study them. And after going through this easy and really fun roadmap together with me, you will have a clear vision and plan of what to study and what not to study in order to unlock the full fretboard in just a couple of days and to finally really understand how music actually works. So the knowledge in this video and the roadmap I want to share with you today won't just make you a better guitar player, it will make you an overall better musician. So let's move to step one right away. This is something I'd like to call the basics. These are absolute must-knows for every single musician out there. So in this first step you have notes and intervals, scales, major and minor, chords, triads and seventh chords, and the circle of fifths as a last optional topic. So that's the first phase or first step. These are the topics you should begin with in this particular order, and everything else will make sense once you established this quite easy foundation. Now for the first bullet point right here, notes and intervals, you will work on understanding the 12 notes in Western music and how intervals work. What the word interval essentially means is the distance between two notes. So to start off, you will learn the names of the notes, you will learn the names of the intervals, and since we're guitar players, to make it more practical, you probably guessed it, you should also learn where those notes are located on the fretboard. I have a full super fun and easy course on this on Patreon. It's the Fretboard Mastery course. You can find it over there by clicking on collections, then on Patreon online courses. Scroll down there. This course is all about the best and most helpful shortcuts and hacks when it comes to memorizing the entire neck in just a couple of days. So if you still can't see the notes on the neck and how they all connect and you can't name and play all of the intervals, this is what you should start with. Just start with the course on Patreon and it will fix this issue once and for all for you. You only have to learn it once, you will remember it forever after that. With the second bullet point, scales, you want to learn the major scale and the minor scale all across the neck. For example, starting out with C major and possibly A minor, because C major and A minor have the same notes in them, just in a different order. And when you learn and memorize those scales across the neck, I don't just want you to memorize a scale box like this. I want you to actually think about the notes that you're playing and about the intervallic structure of the scale. A diagram like this only helps you to remember where to place each finger. But if you're studying and practicing scales like this, so thinking about the notes and the intervals in between, like how you obviously have a minor third interval when you compare the first to the third note in the minor scale and the major third interval in the major scale and so on. So these two scales, major and minor, are the foundation of melody and harmony. Then for the next bullet point, chords, you want to learn about how chords are actually constructed from scales. So once again, this is not about studying chord diagrams like this and memorizing the basic chords and where you have to put your fingers. This step is about understanding how chords and scales are related. For example, if I take the first note, the third note and the fifth note of either the major or minor scale, I get the basic chord on the first scale degree because I'm combining the root with the third and the fifth of each respective scale. So in major, I would have a major chord on the first scale degree because I end up with the intervals root, major third, perfect fifth. And in minor, I would have a minor chord on the first scale degree because I have the root, a minor third and the perfect fifth. And as an exercise, you can simply construct every single chord on every single scale degree in those two scales you learned, the major and the minor scale. And it would be great if you play them all across the neck. That's an awesome exercise, especially when you really think about every single note and the intervallic structure and how they all relate to the scale that you're actually composing in. And for the last optional topic in the first phase, the circle of fifths, you could look into how keys and accidentals work. As you can see over here, it can be a quite helpful tool because it shows you the accidentals in every single major and respective minor, parallel minor key. But if this graphic is already scaring you a bit, you can also avoid it for now. It's not that important, especially for guitar players. Now, my friend, if you're really interested in mastering music theory once and for all, conquering the entire fretboard and finally breaking out of your harmonic rut of always playing the same old boring pentatonic licks, remember that I have super fun and easy in-depth premium courses in my Patreon Guitar Academy on patreon.com/bernd. The link is down below. These these full music theory chord programs take you step by step through the entire process, which is something I can't really do in this short, around 10-minute YouTube video. So if this video is interesting to you, but moving a little bit too fast maybe, and you'd like to have more practical examples and actual exercises to practice on the guitar to connect all the dots, all you have to do is click the link down below and check out the full music theory courses I made for my Guitar Academy on Patreon. You can find them on Patreon by simply clicking on Collections, Patreon online courses, and then over there you will see some awesome music theory packages that will really hold your hand and take you from topic to topic until you mastered and understood absolutely everything once and for all. So become a guitar student for real by clicking the link down below, patreon.com/bernd. But now let's enter the second phase or step that I like to call functional harmony. So this will be about learning how chords function together to actually create music. The first bullet point we have right here is all about chord progressions and Roman numerals. So when we're talking about chords on specific scale degrees, we are using these symbols, the Roman numerals, because they indicate on which scale degree the chord can actually be found. So for chord progressions, it's actually very common and a very great system to write them down like this. It will allow you to easily identify the key that you're in and which function every single chord has. The chord on the 5th scale degree, for example, has the function of creating a lot of tension, which is usually followed and resolved by the chord on the 1st scale degree again. So once you understand very common chord progressions like those, learning songs will become much easier for you because you will find them over and over again, and then you can immediately identify the key you're playing in, and you will have worked out a couple of variations of playing these chords so that you sound more interesting even when you're playing more simple kind of pop progressions. For the next step, you will want to learn about cadences, which is very similar, but it goes a little bit further into theory. Those are often associated with classical music, and they all have names that you should memorize, but also memorize how they sound like and how and where to use them. You will want to study basic voice leading. This is all about smoother chord transitions for a more satisfying sound when you're playing chord progressions. And the final step at the end is understanding diatonic harmony, which is about understanding which chords naturally belong in a key. So this is where your basic knowledge of which chords we find on which scale degrees comes in very handy, because this system applies to all scales, and now you can experiment with more scales, with the modes for example, and build the chords on those scale degrees, and you will see that you will find some very interesting ones, especially once you start working with 7th chords. So that's a great way to find a practical way to experiment and to get creative to end phase number 2. Phase number 3 is all about rhythm and form. So far you only worked on harmony, but you didn't study any rhythm. If you actually want to make music, you will of course need rhythm as well. So this is the time where you want to dive really deep into that, since you have a solid foundation in harmony already. You will start off with time signatures and note values. I'm sure you've seen this before. The most common time signature ever is 4/4, but you will also want to study 3/4 and 6/8. Those are the 3 minimal time signatures that you will need. You don't have to go super crazy and work on 7/8 or 11/16 or something like that. If you're comfortable with 4/4, 3/4 and 6/8, you basically got most of the material out there covered. And concerning note values, you will want to study your classic rhythm pyramid, and you want to understand basic note values like quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, and how they are related. Then you should also do that with triplets. You will need those along your way, but once again, you don't have to go crazy and go into quintuplets or septuplets or anything like that. Keep it simple for now, study the most essential note values, and that will lead you into the next topic, syncopation and groove. This one's a little bit different for everyone because it kind of depends on the music that you actually want to make. Jazz guitar players will want to work on their swing feel, for example, while metal guitar players will want to work on different strumming patterns or downstrokes, for example. Blues players want a solid shuffle, reggae players want some tight offbeats and syncopated stuff. And what kind of also fits in here as a last step is studying song structures, because a lot of classic material features very prominent song structures like an A part, a B part, and a bridge, for example. So learning how a 12-bar blues works or how traditional song structures work can already help you out a lot as well. And then after all that, you enter phase number 4, which is already really interesting because now you're getting into advanced topics. So you should only move here once you really understand all the basics that we talked about so far. So complete all of the other steps before you tackle any of this, or you will get frustrated. I think that's also a mistake that a lot of guitar players make. They always go after the complicated stuff and don't really do their homework first. So please make sure to complete everything we talked about so far before you move here. In this step, you will learn about extensions and altered chords. This is how you can really add color to your chords and harmonies by introducing more notes into them. So you will work with 7th chords that consist out of the root, 3rd, 5th and 7th, but you will extend them with notes beyond that. So you will add extensions or chord tensions like the 9th or sharp 11th. Different types of chords allow for different types of tensions. You can find them right here. And once again, I know this sounds complicated at first, but it's actually fun and super easy if you want to learn this in depth, step by step. I talk about this in the intermediate music theory course on Patreon. So if extending your chords, arpeggios, harmonies and all that to give them a more advanced, really cool sound is interesting for you, just go into the full course to learn how that works step by step. The link is down below, patreon.com/Bernd. Then you could move on to the modal interchange. Once again, sounds way scarier than it is. This is actually just about borrowing chords from parallel modes for a richer or more colorful sound without just experimenting with random chords. You're still following a system right here, and you will want to work on modulation and key changes as well. So how you can, as a composer and a player, move between different keys effortlessly, which will result in a much smoother sound when it comes to playing the chords, but especially when you're playing solos over tracks that often change the key. So my friend, this is essentially my entire roadmap when it comes to learning music theory, or at least the basics of music theory for guitar players. As you can see, we have 4 different steps or phases, and they all build up on each other. So it's a great structured path to follow for you. Just go step by step. Don't jump here right away. Really take your time and go step by step. And this will not only allow you to unlock your fretboard and see all the notes and possibilities on there, it will make your song sound better, it will make your guitar solos sound better, and it will make you an overall better musician. So this video serves as a perfect little introduction to my full premium music theory courses that I have in my Patreon Guitar Academy. The link is down below, patreon.com/Bernd. Now that you know about this basic roadmap, it's the perfect time to start with the actual premium courses I made especially for you. I'm waiting for you inside the full courses. Click the link below and join today. See you over there. Bye bye.